The Great Gatsby is set in 1922, at the dawn of the Roaring Twenties. Its author, F. Scott Fitzgerald, didn't just write about this era, he lived it. From the glittering parties to the quiet doubts beneath the surface, Fitzgerald's work captures the spirit and contradictions of the 1920s with remarkable precision. It would become recognized as one of the most important works in American literature, a sharp poetic portrait of a rapidly changing nation. The world Fitzgerald captured on the page was not imagined. It reflected the reality of his time. To truly understand the novel, we need to understand the context of the decade that shaped it. Let's take a closer look at the world of the 1920s through a series of historical snapshots that show us what was gained, what was lost, and what was left behind. Welcome to the Roaring Twenties, the world of the Great Gatsby. It was a time of booming wealth, rapid change, and bold dreams. A new American spirit emerged, chasing progress, pleasure, and possibility. But this glittering decade rose from the ashes of deep trauma and sacrifice. In its place came a rush to live, spend, and forget the past. This is Gatsby's world, one of bright lights and shadows. And these are the snapshots that shaped it. From 1918 to 1919, the world was gripped by a deadly influenza pandemic, much like the COVID pandemic we remember today. The virus killed over 675,000 Americans and more than 50 million people worldwide. Hospitals were overwhelmed, cities shut down, life felt uncertain, fragile, and completely out of control. At the same time, Americans were still reeling from World War I. In 1918, the war finally ended, and crowds celebrated in the streets. But over 100,000 American soldiers never came home. Those who did often returned with deep scars, both physical and emotional. The war shattered ideals of honor and patriotism, leaving many questioning whether sacrifice was worth it. Despite the grief and disillusionment, the 1920s roared to life. Technology, mass production, and new conveniences transformed daily living. Wages rose, stocks soared, and consumer goods flooded the market. Americans embraced modernity, chasing freedom, fun, and fulfillment. Old values gave way to a new outlook, one focused on pleasure, progress, and personal reinvention. One of the biggest shifts came for women. In 1920, the 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote. But the revolution wasn't just political, it was cultural. More women entered the workforce, attended college, and demanded control over their lives. A new symbol of freedom emerged, the flapper. Flappers were bold. With bobbed hair, short skirts, and rebellious energy, they smoked in public, danced to jazz, and defied expectations. They challenged the idea that women had to be quiet, modest, or obedient. Through style and spirit, they reshaped what womanhood could look like. These cultural shifts thrived in booming cities. For the first time, more Americans lived in cities than on farms. Urban life promised jobs, freedom, and reinvention. Jazz, born in Black communities and rooted in improvisation, became the decade's soundtrack. Its bold rhythms captured the energy of the era. In places like Harlem, the Harlem Renaissance blossomed. Black artists, musicians, and writers redefined American culture and identity, blending jazz, nightlife, and art into something strikingly modern. But not everyone welcomed this change. Many feared the country was losing its moral compass. In 1920, they passed the 18th Amendment, banning the sale, transport, and production of alcohol. Prohibition had begun, but instead of restoring order, it lit the fuse for rebellion. Prohibition didn't stop drinking, it drove it underground. Organized crime flourished as mob bosses like Al Capone and Lucky Luciano built empires on bootlegging. Illegal bars and secret deals became part of everyday life. For many, the thrill of defying the law made drinking even more appealing. Speakeasies, hidden nightclubs tucked behind storefronts or below street level, multiplied across cities. A password might get you past the door, but inside anything could happen. Bribed police looked the other way, jazz filled the air, liquor flowed. These secret spots became symbols of glamour, indulgence, and rebellion. Meanwhile, the wealthy hosted their own dazzling parties in lavish mansions. These gatherings overflowed with jazz, cocktails, dancing, and spectacle. They weren't just social events, they were displays of power, status, and opulence. To be seen was to belong. Whether behind velvet curtains or guarded gates, the parties were more than fun. They were cultural statements. Gender roles blurred, racial boundaries bent, social norms were pushed aside. The message was clear. The old rules no longer applied. Fueling this lifestyle was an obsession with materialism and a booming consumer economy. Goods like cars, radios, and fashion became affordable through mass production and desirable through relentless advertising. Many Americans bought stocks using loans, hoping to get rich quick. They also bought now and paid later thanks to credit and installment plans. Working families could look wealthy even if they weren't. Success became about appearances. If you looked the part, that felt like enough. This gave rise to a new American dream. The old dream valued hard work, honesty, and stability, but now it was about wealth, fame, and social image. If you dressed right, drove the right car, and threw the right parties, people assumed you'd made it. But behind the glitter was a question. Was any of it real, or was it just smoke and mirrors? Reinvention became the magic of the moment. In big cities where no one knew your past, you could become anyone. Fake it till you make it, that was the motto. But behind the glamour, many felt like imposters, struggling to belong in a world built for someone else. Even those who made it learned that money couldn't buy everything. There were unspoken rules about who truly belonged. The upper class often reserved acceptance for those with the right family name. The champagne life was tempting, but not everyone got to pour a glass. At the top were the old money elite, families whose wealth went back generations. They held power not just through riches, but through lineage, manners, and social connections. Their world was exclusive, quiet, and filled with inherited confidence. Beneath them were the new money class, people who had earned their wealth through booming industries like oil, entertainment, or bootlegging. Their lifestyle was loud, luxurious, and modern, but they were often seen as flashy and unrefined by the old guard, outsiders trying to break in. No matter how rich they were, new money couldn't always buy acceptance. The old money elite looked down on them as showy or vulgar. True status, they believed, came not from wealth alone, but from generations of it. And so many remained excluded from the most exclusive places, forever on the outside looking in. While cities glowed with opportunity, not everyone shared in the prosperity. Industrial growth came with pollution, long hours, and low pay. Working class neighborhoods, especially near smokestacks and factories, suffered most. The shine of the decade often came at someone else's expense. For many, immigrants, Black Americans, women, and rural families, the American dream was out of reach. Legal barriers, racism, sexism, and isolation made upward mobility nearly impossible. Behind the glittering surface lay deep inequality. The ladder of success was missing rungs, or it was never there at all. As the decade wore on, a quiet disillusionment crept in. Beneath the music and money, people began to feel something was off. The dream had shifted from hope and hard work to image and excess, and that left many wondering what had been lost along the way. People believed the prosperity would never end, but when a society chases wealth and forgets its values, collapse isn't far behind. In 1929, the stock market crashed. Banks failed. Businesses closed. Families lost everything. The illusion shattered, ushering in the Great Depression. In hindsight, the 1920s were sandwiched between two national nightmares, World War I and the Great Depression. A burst of bright lights between two long nights. This iconic photo captures the contradiction. A bread line beneath a billboard boasting the highest standard of living. There's no way like the American way. The glamour was real, but so was the suffering. The party dazzled, but it could never last. And yet, even in the midst of the glitter, the chaos, and the collapse, there was something unforgettable. As Nick looks back on Gatsby, he tries to explain what set him apart from everyone else. He had an extraordinary gift for hope, a romantic readiness such as I have never found in any other person, and which is not likely I shall ever find again. Gatsby's story may be uniquely his, but the hope he carried, the belief in something better just out of reach, still speaks to us today. And that's the world the Great Gatsby invites us to explore.